Israel's prime minister arrives in Nicosia for trilateral talks with the leaders of Greece and Cyprus. The former president of Ivory Coast goes on trial at the International Criminal Court. And in tennis, Djokovic defeats Federer at the Australian Open to bid for a sixth record title at Melbourne Park. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us at I-24 News. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfalas. We begin with the Zika virus, which, blamed for a surge in birth defects, is spreading explosively. World Health Organization Chief Margaret Chan said today, calling for an emergency meeting on the outbreak on February 1st. In the meeting, the WHO will determine whether the explosive spread of the Zika virus linked to thousands of birth defects in Latin America qualifies as an international public health emergency. The virus has now been detected in 22 countries in the Americas and is slowly moving north into the U.S. The spread of the virus has prompted governments across the world to advise women in the early stages of pregnancy against going to the areas where it has been detected. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Cyprus today for trilateral meetings with the Cypriot president and Greek prime minister aimed at boosting cooperation. Israel, Cyprus, and Greece signed a memorandum of understanding on water cooperation. Discussions are also expected to center on energy issues, including newly found offshore gas reserves. And we're joined now by Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent from the presidential palace in Nicosia. Tal, what's the latest from Nicosia?
Well, the three leaders are now having lunch, but during their closing statements to the trilateral summit, one word was repeated again and again, and that was repeated by all leaders, and that was historic. And mainly Greece, Cyprus, and Israel did convene the summit to display that a new regional player has emerged in the East Mediterranean region. But when we look at practically what has been decided in this summit, then the three countries did sign a memorandum of understanding on water cooperation, which includes a decision to promote a gas pipeline from Israel to Cyprus and from there to Greek and even to Europe, and also an underwater electricity grid. The three leaders also signed a joint declaration pledging to promote security and prosperity in the region, and we will continue to see this cooperation even enhancing in the upcoming months, as the three leaders, Netanyahu, Cyprus, and Anastasiadis, did announce that they will be holding another trilateral summit later this year. This time it will be in Jerusalem.
Tal Shalev from Nicosia, thanks for joining us, giving us more information regarding the trilateral meeting happening in Cyprus. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani received a warm ceremonial welcome in Paris on the second leg of his European visit, though some clouds hang over the historic trip. Despite welcoming Rouhani with a lucrative car-making agreement and pledges to boost trade, France also asked its European Union partners to consider new sanctions on Iran for its recent ballistic missile tests. Along with the French Prime Minister Manuel Valls, Rouhani today attends a business forum chaired by the boss of the French Entrepreneurs Union. Rouhani arrived in Paris on Wednesday from Rome, where billions of euros worth of trade deals were also reached. Well, PSA Peugeot Citroën will become the first Western company to sign an industrial business deal with the Islamic Republic since economic sanctions were lifted earlier this month. The French carmaker will invest $435 million in the next 5 years to upgrade its auto plant near Tehran. The business deal with Iran Khodro will produce 100,000 vehicles a year starting in late 2017, with output eventually doubling. The revamped factory, which opened about 50 years ago, will make Peugeot's 208 hatchback, 301 sedan, and 2008 crossover. Well, the trial of Ivory Coast's ex-president Laurent Gbagbo opened today at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Gbagbo pled not guilty to 4 counts of crimes against humanity. He faces charges relating to the more than 3,000 people killed in the civil conflict that erupted after he lost elections in 2010. I-24 News' Ezra Taylor has more.
Hundreds of supporters of Laurent Gbagbo gathered at the International Criminal Court on Thursday, awaiting the arrival of the former president of the Ivory Coast for his trial on fomenting a civil war that killed 3,000 people. France intervened to put an end to the 4-month war. The former president now faces 4 counts of crimes against humanity and war crimes alongside his co-accused youth leader, Charles Bligoud. Many of the supporters are defiant.
It's over. It's the end. There is no more peace for Qatar. I am from Dueku. There was a genocide in my hometown. A genocide. It is Soros' fault, but Bensouda defends him.
Supporters also say Gbagbo is being punished for standing up to the former colonial power. The case is a test for the Global War Crimes Court, whose previous attempt to prosecute a top politician, Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta, ended in disarray amid a fierce diplomatic lobbying effort from Kenya and its African allies. The court, set up 13 years ago to charge the gravest international crimes, has so far handed down just 2 convictions, both of little-known African warlords. This trial, however, only just begins.
Bad news for migrants that hope to find a home in Sweden. Officials in Stockholm say they are planning to expel as many as 80,000 so-called failed asylum seekers. The Swedish Interior Minister said migrants would be deported over several years using charter aircraft. Over 160,000 migrants applied for asylum in Sweden last year, the highest per capita number in Europe. But the numbers have sharply fallen since the Scandinavian country adopted tighter border controls this year. Well, U.S. President Barack Obama marked International Holocaust Remembrance Day yesterday at a ceremony at the Israeli embassy in Washington. He warned against the rising tide of global anti-Semitism, and he praised an American soldier who saved Jews during World War II, repeating the words he told his German captor, saying, quote, "We are all Jews."
When we see some Jews leaving European cities where their families have lived for generations because they no longer feel safe, when Jewish centers are targeted from Mumbai to Overland Park, Kansas, when swastikas appear on college campuses, when we see all that and more, we must not be silent. When any Jew anywhere is targeted just for being Jewish, we all have to respond as Roddy Edmonds did. We are all Jews.
Moving now to Myanmar, where outgoing President Thein Sein called the transition of power a triumph in his final address to a military-dominated parliament. The government is now making way for a historic new legislature led by pro-democracy party leader Aung San Suu Kyi. ITV News reporter Ezra Taylor has more.
Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, or NLD, convened this month to discuss the transfer of power in Myanmar. Today, the transition begins. New and old members of the Myanmar Parliament arrived at the House of Representatives on Thursday for the last session of the Union Parliament. Lawmakers are excited to bring Suu Kyi's ambitious agenda to fruition.
I think the foundations are equal to international standards. I'm thinking in my mind that it would be great if we can produce an international standard democracy system from this international standard building.
The NLD party prepares for office after winning about 80% of the elected seats in Parliament at a historic election late last year. As the transition begins, the outgoing president bid farewell to the Parliament.
This is the first time since independence that peaceful power transfer is taking place between the government and newly elected leaders. I want to say that I promise to finish this important task following proper procedures. May the new government and its parliament bring peace and development to our country. May all the people be healthy and live peacefully. May all ethnicities groups succeed in building up the Federal Union of Myanmar without any problems.
But the issue of reaching out to former foes from nearly half a century of military rule may prove to be one of the first problems to emerge within the NLD, as it's not fully decided what positions will be given to those who previously held power, with the potential to threaten or even derail Myanmar's chance at democracy, though leaders agreed at the early January meeting to offer the posts of deputy parliament speakers to previous lawmakers. The NLD will take office around late March after a drawn-out transition, but it's the type of scenes many would like to see more often.
Tennis champion Novak Djokovic defeated Swiss Roger Federer at the Australian Open today to charge into a 5th successive Grand Slam final. Although Djokovic appeared destined to lose following a 2-set lead by Federer within an hour, the Swiss tennis star couldn't keep up his game to come out on top. Djokovic, the world #1, now bids for a record 6th title at Melbourne Park in the professional era and will meet the winner of 2nd seed Andy Murray and 3rd seed Milos Raonic.
I knew he's gonna be aggressive. He's gonna try to mix up the pace and try to come to the net. But you know, I came up with the right intensity, great concentration. I executed everything perfectly, and obviously to set lead, it's more comforting. But it was a battle in the end, and thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed this match tonight.
That's all from us for now. Thanks for watching.